Quelques mots d'accueil dans cet amphithéâtre Michel-Ange de l'École du Louvre, pour vous dire que nous sommes particulièrement heureux d'avoir pu dépanner modestement les organisatrices de cette très belle après-midi. Je suis Claire Barbillon, la directrice de l'École du Louvre, et c'est grâce à Dominique de Font-Réaulx, qui prendra la parole un instant après moi, que j'ai pu répondre positivement à la demande qui m'était faite avant-hier de vous accueillir avec le plus grand plaisir, car ça a été pour moi l'occasion de découvrir Thanks for Nothing, de m'émerveiller de cette initiative, de son action, du programme admirable qui est proposé cet après-midi. Je crois que rien ne pouvait mieux répondre à l'aspiration qu'a l'École du Louvre d'apporter sa petite pierre à la cause qui vous réunit aujourd'hui. Nous sommes nous-mêmes en train de réfléchir au programme Pause, qui est un programme que nous propose le ministère de la Culture d'accueil de doctorants et de docteurs en archéologie et en histoire de l'art issus de pays qui vivent les conditions dramatiques que nous savons, aussi pour la jeune recherche. Donc en réfléchissant à tout ça, eh bien, vous apportez cette magnifique initiative et cette action que nous soutenons vraiment du fond du cœur. Donc c'est un très grand plaisir de vous accueillir ici. Et je vais immédiatement donc laisser la parole à ma collègue et amie Dominique de Font-Réaulx, grâce à laquelle nous faisons connaissance.
Merci infiniment, chère Claire, et à toute ton équipe pour ta réaction immédiate, positive. Je suis vraiment très touchée puisque je t'ai envoyé un mail avant-hier soir tard et tu m'as répondu tout de suite en me disant « je vais voir ce que je peux faire ». Et je me suis dit « oula ». Te connaissant et sachant ta détermination, je savais que certainement quelque chose pourrait être fait. Et c'est vrai que, à titre personnel, simplement, je ne serai pas trop longue sur le personnel, mais à titre personnel, pouvoir lier ce projet qui, du coup, associe, et je m'en réjouis beaucoup, à la fois Sciences Po et l'École du Louvre, qui sont deux institutions qui me sont chères et au sein desquelles j'enseigne, dans l'une et dans l'autre, me fait très plaisir. Je trouve que, puisque les circonstances n'ont pas permis que l'événement ait lieu à Sciences Po, je trouve très bien que ça ait lieu à l'École du Louvre, connaissant l'engagement des étudiants de l'école, connaissant ton engagement à la tête de cette école que tu viens de prendre, et nous nous en réjouissons tous, et nous formulons 1001 vœux pour tous les succès pour ton mandat, et sachant que ce point-là d'enjeu philanthropique pour l'art et pour la création a sa place, bien sûr, à l'École du Louvre pleinement, dans les enseignements comme dans les réflexions. Donc vraiment, mille merci Claire, à toi, à toute ton équipe, à Natacha Pernac, Isabelle Bador et à l'ensemble de l'équipe technique, dont je sais qu'elle est mobilisée pour nous spécifiquement aujourd'hui, parce qu'elle n'aurait pas dû l'être, et vraiment un grand merci à tous, vraiment du fond du cœur. Je voulais le dire. Je ne vais pas être très longue parce que l'essentiel surtout c'est de passer la parole aux intervenants. Je voulais simplement vous dire combien je suis heureuse d'avoir pu être associée grâce à ces fondatrices à ce projet qui a démarré l'année dernière avec quelque chose que vous aviez eu la chance de voir certainement au Palais de Tokyo, We Dream Under the Same Sky, ce qui s'était ensuite concrétisé par une vente aux enchères qui a été couronnée de succès. Et cette mobilisation très importante de la création artistique, mais aussi de l'ensemble de la pensée, et de la pensée notamment étudiante. Ce projet donne lieu à ce qu'on appelle à Sciences Po un projet collectif avec un engagement d'étudiants de Sciences Po. Et donc, l'engagement de la création, mais aussi de la pensée étudiante et de la pensée plus généralement autour de l'art et des théories de l'art pour la philanthropie. Le sujet est un sujet crucial qui n'est évidemment pas là du tout par les conditions, malheureusement par les circonstances d'un point de vue de politiquement correct, c'est un enjeu absolument crucial. Nous ne pouvons pas ne pas réfléchir à ces enjeux de philanthropie, nous ne pouvons pas ne pas accueillir ceux qui aujourd'hui demandent asile dans notre pays ou ceux qui sont confrontés à des situations complexes dans leur pays. Et si la création artistique n'a de sens qu'en pensant aussi cette création plus largement dans une sphère qui est une sphère à la fois mondiale, mais qui est aussi une sphère d'altérité. Parce que d'une certaine manière, qu'est-ce que la création artistique plus que la rencontre avec l'autre. Hein. Et toute la complexité de la création artistique, c'est qu'elle nous met en face d'une altérité absolument fondamentale, qui est celle de l'œuvre d'art, et qui est donc la rencontre avec une forme de création, avec une forme d'émotion qui nous renvoie une image de l'autre, mais aussi une image de nous-mêmes à travers l'autre. Et je pense que c'est un des points absolument essentiels à souligner ici aujourd'hui, c'est combien en associant création artistique et philanthropie, on ne surfe pas sur une vague de bonne conscience qui nous permettrait après de rentrer chez nous contents en ayant fait quelque chose de bien, ce qui d'ailleurs, pour dire la vérité, ne serait déjà pas si mal, il ne faut pas non plus toujours s'envoyer des piques, mais je pense que notre mission, en tant à la fois que créateur, qu'historien de l'art ou que personne travaillant à l'économie de l'art, notre mission est de proclamer cette altérité fondatrice de l'art et aussi de proclamer, Claire, que je connais depuis longtemps, le sait bien, quelque chose qui m'est cher, c'est que la création artistique n'est pas du surplus. C'est pas le petit élément que vous gagnez quand vous avez déjà tout. C'est pas quelque chose qui s'adresse aux riches ou aux nantis ou à ceux qui ont la chance de faire des études les plus élevées. Et ça me semble quelque chose, la culture, la création artistique, qui fait partie de la nature même de notre humanité. Et ça nous est, à mon sens, on n'est pas dans une pyramide de Maslow où elle serait supérieure et sur laquelle il faudrait avoir atteint toutes les étapes pour pouvoir en profiter. Elle fait partie de ce qui est notre nature d'être humain. Nous sommes des êtres humains parce que nous sommes des êtres susceptibles de création. Donc le fait que tout le monde puisse y avoir accès, à la fois, comme Claire le mentionnait à l'instant, dans des pays qui connaissent aujourd'hui des situations de guerre absolument effroyables et sur lesquelles je ne suis pas habilitée à parler, mais dont je déplore terriblement cette situation effroyable, mais aussi dans notre pays, de pouvoir donner accès à tous à cette création artistique. Donc, art et philanthropie, c'est pas lié deux thèmes qui font chic ensemble, c'est lié deux thèmes qui, par essence, sont profondément associés, parce que l'art, d'une certaine manière, est une des premières philanthropies, au sens clair, au sens étymologique, dans cette idée d'aimer l'homme et par la création artistique. Et donc la philanthropie, me semble-t-il, commence avec la création artistique. Donc j'avais juste apporté quelques images qu'on peut peut-être juste montrer, mais très rapidement, pour souligner une opération que qui vient de se terminer au Musée Delacroix, et dont je suis très fière, et je suis aussi très fière que une partie de mon équipe soit là aujourd'hui parce qu'ils l'ont conçue ensemble avec moi, qui est une opération qu'on a conduite avec la Fondation Lilian Thuram pour l'éducation contre le racisme. On peut passer les images, vous voyez ici Lilian Thuram et puis aussi des groupes, et on a pour la première fois mis en œuvre à la fois une exposition, mais aussi tout un programme de médiation spécifiquement adapté. Vous voyez ici des vidéos qui ont été tournées par des élèves d'un lycée professionnel parisien, des élèves plutôt en grande difficulté scolaire et sociale, et qui ont recréé des tableaux de Delacroix à l'occasion de cet accrochage. Et donc, on a pu faire venir, grâce à ce projet, plus de 80 groupes d'élèves ou de personnes en situation de difficulté, à la fois des groupes de migrants, des groupes de personnes en alphabétisation, et qui montrent qu'un projet de cette ampleur peut et doit avoir lieu dans les musées et dans les institutions culturelles. Donc c'est ce que je souhaite, et sans plus tarder, je passe la parole à Marine von Schoonbeek, qui est la présidente de Thanks for Nothing et qui va nous parler de la journée et puis de parler aussi des projets. Un grand merci à nouveau à vous tous qui êtes là, un grand merci à toi Claire et ton équipe avant toute chose.
Alors, bonjour à tous. Je suis évidemment très heureuse de vous voir tous aujourd'hui. Vous m'entendez bien? Je suis évidemment très heureuse de vous voir tous aujourd'hui dans ce très bel amphithéâtre pour donc cette conférence qui s'appelle What I Can Learn From You, What You Can Learn From Me, qui est tout un programme sur la connaissance, le partage et l'échange, puisque tous les projets de Thanks for Nothing avancent dans ce sens, et c'est ce que nous voulons porter aujourd'hui. Évidemment, je tiens à remercier... Ah, je me disais qu'il n'y avait pas assez d'écho. Donc, je tiens évidemment à remercier avant tout la directrice de l'École du Livre, de l'École du Louvre, c'est formidable. C'est chic aussi. De l'École du Louvre, donc Claire Barbillon ainsi que Dominique de Font-Réaulx, puisque comme vous le savez, nous sommes accueillis aujourd'hui dans ce très beau lieu. Initialement, nous devions être à Sciences Po et comme vous le savez, pour la mobilisation étudiante, nous avons donc déplacé ce beau moment ici. Et donc merci infiniment Claire, merci infiniment Dominique d'avoir en si peu de temps permis à ce colloque de se tenir. Il était tellement important pour nous de donner la voix à nos intervenants aujourd'hui qu'il aurait été évidemment terrible de devoir annuler. Et donc on se félicite et on se réjouit de vous voir également si nombreux. Ça prouve que l'information a bien été diffusée. Merci infiniment d'être présents. Donc merci également à Sciences Po, au directeur Frédéric Mion qui devait faire l'introduction également, mais qui donc est retenu avec ses étudiants. Et donc merci infiniment aux équipes de Sciences Po. Comme Dominique l'a indiqué, il s'agit d'un projet collectif. Donc nous travaillons depuis plusieurs mois avec 5 étudiantes de Sciences Po que je tiens à remercier, donc qui sont Manon, Laurie, Sarah, Alix et Mylène. Merci de votre travail, merci d'avoir œuvré à la création de ce projet qui trouve ici tout son sens. Je tiens également à remercier Stéphane Arenberg que je vois ici et ses équipes de Cahiers d'art puisque nous sommes en partenariat avec eux. C'est une revue historique créée en 1926 et qui en période de crise a toujours porté la voix des artistes. Merci évidemment pour votre travail et puis je laisserai tout à l'heure la parole à Stéphane qui a également la gentillesse de nous recevoir donc, pour un cocktail pour célébrer cette journée dans ces espaces de la rue du Dragon. Alors, c'est aussi l'occasion pour moi de ce projet de présenter ce qu'est Thanks for Nothing. Donc, Thanks for Nothing est une plateforme philanthropique que nous avons créée l'année passée avec Betsabé, Blanche, Charlotte, Anaïs et moi-même à l'occasion de We Dream Under the Same Sky. C'est une plateforme qui met au cœur avant tout l'art et la voix des artistes pour défendre des projets engageants. Et c'est ce que nous avons créé avec We Dream Under the Same Sky. Pour certains d'entre vous, et je vois ici des représentants des associations que nous avons soutenues et je m'en réjouis, nous avons voulu, citoyennes face à la crise des réfugiés, agir de façon professionnelle avec les différents acteurs du monde de l'art. Et donc nous avons mobilisé 27 artistes qui ont eu la gentillesse et la générosité de donner des œuvres, qui ont été dans un premier temps exposées au Palais de Tokyo et dans un second temps vendu aux enchères à la galerie Azedine Alaya par Christy et François Pinault qui étaient partenaires du projet dès le départ et qui nous ont permis de rassembler 2 millions d'euros. Et donc ces 2 millions d'euros ont été reversés à 5 structures que je souhaiterais quand même nommer aujourd'hui puisque leur action au quotidien fait vraiment changer les choses et la vision et la réalité des réfugiés. Donc il s'agit de Migre Europe, de l'ANAFE, la CIMAD, le Centre Primo Levi et TOT. Ce sont des associations extraordinaires que je vous invite à soutenir, à encourager par tous les moyens possibles, à la fois en donnant une modeste contribution de 10 € ou à devenir bénévole. C'est des gens qui ont besoin de nous et nous pouvons encore les encourager davantage. Et finalement, We Dream Under the Same Sky est l'ADN de ce que nous souhaitons faire avec Thanks for Nothing. Thanks for Nothing s'appelle Thanks for Nothing puisque c'est la voix des artistes qui est portée avant tout. Il s'agit d'un poème que certains d'entre vous ont peut-être vu et lu, de John Giorno, qui, à l'occasion de ses 70 ans, a écrit un superbe poème, pamphlet si on veut, sur la vie et ses méandres. Et il retient cette phrase que je trouve très belle et il dit « il faut célébrer la justice poétique ». Et c'est ce que nous souhaitons faire avec tous nos projets, célébrer la justice poétique puisque la voix des artistes peut aborder des choses parfois très complexes, très douloureuses de notre société et la rendre sublime et faire entendre des voix qui parfois ne se font pas entendre. Et Thanks for Nothing, c'est ce projet-là. Donc aujourd'hui, on poursuit nos actions. Il s'agit avec cette conférence de donner la parole à des personnes inspirées et inspirantes qui, depuis des années, en tant que citoyens, en tant que militants, en tant que professionnels, défendent des enjeux sociétaux, des enjeux sociaux, des enjeux graves, et collaborent souvent, et l'essentiel du temps, avec des artistes pour cela. Encore une fois, pour porter cet idéal des artistes qui subliment le réel. Et donc, évidemment, je tiens à remercier tous les participants qui nous viennent pour certains de très loin. Merci d'être avec nous. Donc, Olivia Arthur, évidemment, Amar Bakshi, Judith De Paul, Dominique de Font-Réaulx qui vient de prendre la parole, Judith De Paul que je viens de citer, Thomas Kilper, Mohamed Nourwana, Natacha Petrezine, Céline Schmitt qui est ici, Marie-Cécile Zinsou, Bill qui va prendre la parole à l'instant, et Thomas Hirschhorn. Je souhaite conclure en parlant un peu de son travail, puisque tous nos projets sont liés justement à la voix des artistes, et aujourd'hui c'est Thomas qui nous donne le nom de cette conférence, puisqu'il dit « What I can learn from you, what you can learn from me, this is the affirmation that there is something to share, something that goes beyond all differences, something that goes beyond all particularities. Thank you, and thanks for nothing. »
Bonjour à tous, donc je m'appelle Mylène Wang et je participe au projet collectif que Marine vient de présenter, qui organise donc cette conférence avec Thanks for Nothing et Sciences Po. Et j'ai l'honneur de vous annoncer notre premier invité, qui est Bill Shipsey, et donc que nous remercions évidemment à nouveau pour sa présence. Bill Shipsey étant anglophone, je vais donc poursuivre sa présentation en anglais si vous me le permettez. Donc, I am extremely happy to welcome and present Bill Shipsey, who is an Irish barrister who dedicated his adult life to human rights activism. Joining Amnesty International in 1977, he founded Art for Amnesty as a global program gathering committed artists like John Lennon through Yoko Ono or U2 in some amazing and incredible concerts. He strongly believes in art as a vector of awareness raising. He thus has brought together countless artists of all disciplines around the world, wanting to leverage their art in the cause of human rights. He has additionally organized dozens of art memorial projects, partnering with the weavers of Aubusson, for example, and recognized as UNESCO World Intangible Heritage. Therefore, it was an evidence, and it is an honor to welcome this inspiring man today in our conference.
Thank you very much. I feel after that introduction I can leave because everything has been said about me. But it is truly a great honor to be here now in part of the Louvre to make this presentation, and I was honored to be invited by my friends. I can certainly say dear friends in Thanks for Nothing, whom I've known for, it can be counted in months, but it feels as if we've known each other forever. And I also regard this as somewhat as a job interview on my part, so that Thanks for Nothing will consider me as a collaboration partner with them in future projects. I've been auditioning for this part for 41 years, but finally I feel as if I've arrived if Thanks for Nothing will adopt me as one of their project partners. I must apologize also that I'm making this presentation in English. For those of you who don't speak English, or at least don't understand English spoken with an Irish accent. If I'm invited again next year, I hope that I can deliver it in French, as by then I will have joined the ranks of very many self-imposed Irish exiles since I'm moving to live in Paris from September. For me to speak at the Louvre, and I wish my mother was still alive to know this, but it is the rock star equivalent of making it to the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. So if I'm blushing and embarrassed, you will know that it is because I am actually speaking in the Louvre. What gives this event its elevation is precisely this sense that so many good spirits from what I would call the Republic of Conscience and from the land of art have congregated for the right reasons in the right place. My understanding of Thanks for Nothing is that it represents not so much a cause as a credo. Thanks for Nothing, like Art for Amnesty, represents a disposition rather than a party line. And the disposition is this, and here I would like to quote my dear late friend Seamus Heaney, the Nobel laureate in literature in 1995, who said, "We are disposed to believe that the work of artists helps to create our future." we believe that the effort of creative individuals can promote a new order of understanding in the common mind, an understanding that precedes and prepares for the establishment of new social conditions. Art that is fully alive to reality and fully truthful in its response is, after all, what the Russian poet Marina Tsvetaeva once called it, namely art in the light of conscience. And that's what I've decided to call my short presentation to you here today. Art is born from a truthful impulse. It doesn't arise from any sense of duty. It is one of the rewards of inner and outer freedoms, one of the symptoms of a well-doing commonwealth. We Irish, like the French, have a long tradition of respecting the prisoner who is jailed for not betraying his principles. It is no coincidence that after his fall from grace and time spent in prison, that my compatriot Oscar Wilde moved to Paris to live out the remainder of his life. We are also, as Irish people, long familiar with the conflict between the laws of the state and the inner rule of a person's, the Irish word is duchos, I think the English equivalent would be conscience. I'm not sure what the French word here, but I promised to ask my teachers in Ecole Catholique what the equivalent of duchos is when I enroll in September. But it's the sense of what is immemoriably right. For that reason, the Irish and the French are natural sympathizers with the aims of Amnesty International. And it has been my great pleasure over the last several months, and for the next several months, to be collaborating with the French section of Amnesty International on a program that is a global program that is centered in France, honoring the contribution of a remarkable American woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, and the 2 years that she spent not terribly far from here in the Palais des Chaillot, negotiating and drafting, although most of the drafting I think was done by your French jurist René Cassin, but collaborating with him and others to realize the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. France and Ireland also, on a lighter note, gave the world arguably the two greatest writers of the 20th century, although their one meeting was rather unproductive. Joyce was asked if he knew some count that Proust knew, and he said no. And Proust was asked if he had read Ulysses, and he said no. But you will also, if you understand anything about Joyce as opposed to Proust, is that we Irish like not only to talk in riddles, but we like to speak in a stream of consciousness way. So the 50 slides that follow are a stream of consciousness, very rapid tour of Amnesty International and its engagement with artists, and also my personal journey with Amnesty International and artists in that time. It's unfortunately a little bit light on how one goes about engaging with artists, but I'd be very happy to speak with anybody after that, and I would be very happy to answer any questions if there is any time. If I can try to move through the slides very quickly. So the story... Whoops. I'm not sure. Okay, it helps if you put the on button on, I'm told. So the story really begins, as I've indicated earlier, with one remarkable woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, who was asked by President Truman to chair the UN Committee on Human Rights. And the UN Charter, which was adopted in San Francisco in June 1945, had as very much part and parcel of it a desire and a commitment to human rights after the atrocities that the world witnessed during World War II. And between 1946 and the 10th of December 1948, the UN Human Rights Committee met in Paris. Most of the drafting for what became the 30 Articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights were drafted by the amazing French jurist René Cassin. So, on the 10th of December 1948, I wasn't there, unfortunately, but it was at the Palais des Chaillot, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted. And that has become the standard for the protection and realization of human rights around the world. It was what Eleanor Roosevelt called the Magna Carta of our day. Meanwhile, across, I think it's called La Manche, in 1960, an underemployed British barrister who was the grandson of a Jewish oil tycoon from Baku in Azerbaijan whose mother carried on a very passionate affair with Kerensky in the Plaza Hotel in the 1920s. But this was her son, Peter, and he was, as I said, an underemployed British barrister who had gone to Spain to witness trials of those who were ultimately imprisoned under the Franco dictatorship in Spain. And he was one day travelling by metro, or as they call it in London, the tube, to work. This is not Peter Benenson. This is a much better looking Irish barrister who recreated the journey because Peter Benenson didn't have the foresight to have a photographer with him when he was taking his journey in December 1960. But he was travelling on the tube to work and reading the Times newspaper. And one particular short article caught his eye, and it was the story of two Portuguese jailed for subversion. And it told the story of a man and a woman who were jailed and who were from Porto and from Lisbon, who were jailed, I think, for 2 and 6 years on charges of engaging in subversive activities. The woman mentioned in this article was the daughter of the head of the Communist Party of Portugal. And these are photographs of her in, as it were, chronological order. She spent up to 7 years in Salazar's prison. The one on the top is what she looked like when she went in. And the one on the bottom right, as you look at it, is what she looked like when she came out. But this short article had an amazing impact. It was an epiphany moment for Peter Benenson. And ideas had been obviously going around in his mind. He had been impressed by the World Refugee Year in 1958 when, even 13 years after World War II, there were still hundreds of thousands of persons still in displacement camps. And he wanted to do for what he called prisoners of conscience what had been done for refugees in 1958. So he decided to get off the train at Trafalgar Square. I'm told you can't mention Trafalgar in French circles, but I very bravely will mention the fact that it was Trafalgar Square. And he went into a wonderful church called the St. Martin in the Fields. It's a church just off Trafalgar Square, and he sat in the benches. This again is recreation after the event. Two very handsome chaps. And he had an epiphany about starting a movement that would work for the release of persons imprisoned for the non-violent expression of their beliefs. And he called them prisoners of conscience. And he went, after that, and he went down and handed in a letter of protest at the Portuguese embassy. And over the next months, he and a number of his lawyer colleagues drafted an appeal, which was published by the Observer newspaper on the 26th or 28th of May 1961. It was published simultaneously in Le Monde and also in a New York newspaper, either the New York Times or the Washington Post. And it was called The Forgotten Prisoners. And it highlighted 6 prisoners from very diverse backgrounds. There was a Catholic archbishop from Prague, there was a Greek trade unionist, there was an Uruguayan trade unionist, there was an American who was working in the civil rights movement, and there was an Angolan poet called Angelo Neto, who subsequently became their president and a mass violator of human rights, but at this stage he was a doctor in a prison in the Azores. And what this article asked people to do, they asked people to write letters to the governments of these 6 individuals seeking their release. And at the time that was considered quite a radical move. There wasn't what we would call civil society organizations in 1960. There were intergovernment organizations, but the responsibility for the defense and vindication of human rights largely rested with governments. And Peter Benenson said, well, let's start an organization for individuals where individuals will write on behalf of other individuals seeking their release. And since it was an organization that was working for the release of those imprisoned for the non-violent expression of their beliefs, there were not coincidentally many artists and writers and poets and painters who were imprisoned in totalitarian regimes of left and right at that time. So not surprisingly, some of the first people to become involved in the appeal for amnesty in 1961, it was only meant to be a 1-year campaign, but such was the response in France and everywhere that they decided that they would have a conference, somewhat like a Thanks for Nothing conference, but this one took place in the Chateau Mallet outside Bruges in Belgium. And I know that some of our Thanks for Nothing fondresses have Belgian connections, but people associate Amnesty International with the newspaper article, but in fact it wasn't founded until September 1962 at this nice chateau outside Bruges. And the meeting resolved to establish a new movement, which was called Amnesty International. And that really is the beginning of what we know as the civil society or the global NGO movement. Dates from this period of time in 1961. From the very start, many artists rallied to the cause. In 1961, even before it was Amnesty International, the actress Julie Christie took part with a calypso singer called Cy Grant in an event in St. Martin-in-the-Field. Francois Mauriac was the first French writer to support Amnesty. And Henry Moore was the first artist, the sculptor Henry Moore was the first artist to actually become a sponsor of Amnesty, even before it was Amnesty International, and to provide some work. Throughout the 1960s and into the 1970s, other artists rallied to their cause. Joan Miro, I'm sorry for the pixelation on his painting, but that actually says Amnesty. He created a piece of art for Amnesty, which was displayed and sold at auction in New York in 1977. Pablo Picasso did this short, sort of very simple black and white piece for us. And also in 1977, Fernando Botero gave us this painting of his, which was called, I think, Generalissimo. You will see something of a Botero later. He has had a career with Amnesty which is even longer than mine. But these artists all rallied to the cause of Amnesty International. Fast forward to 1977, and a Czech dissident playwright founded Charter 77. He was actually arrested for the first time on St. Patrick's Day, 1976. Those of you who know something of Irish history will know that St. Patrick, who hailed from France originally, was our patron saint, and Irish people tend to drink too much on that day. But on St. Patrick's Day, 1977, Václav Havel was attending a trial of a band called the Plastic People of the Universe. And they were a band that did cover songs of Frank Zappa and the Velvet Underground, and they were arrested for their troubles by the Czech communist authorities. And at their trial, Václav Havel and others were arrested and imprisoned. And then in 1977, they founded Charter 77. This photograph here, I suppose it's a very typical of its day with the cigarette in hand, but this was Havel's open letter to the General Secretary of the Czech Communist Party, Huzák, which led to his article called The Power of the Powerless. And if one wants to date the beginning of the end of totalitarian communism, I like to think that this letter was the first step in that. This was the throwing down the gauntlet on behalf of individuals to challenge the power of the totalitarian communist state. Now, fortunately for Mr. Havel, who was a playwright, he had another playwright friend. It's coincidence that he was Irish, of course. Equally coincidental that he was living in Paris. But when Havel was in prison, of the either 17 or 19 plays that Samuel Beckett wrote, only one play did he ever dedicate to anyone, and that was a short play called Catastrophe, which he dedicated to Václav Havel. You're all probably more familiar with Waiting for Godot, and the one regret, or one of the regrets I have in my life, is that I didn't do the review when it first appeared in English. The Chicago Sun-Times reviewer, having seen Waiting for Godot, said it's a great play in which nothing happens twice. I certainly wish I had come up with that line. And also in 1977, Amnesty International won the Nobel Peace Prize. It was a year in which there was a big conference organized by Amnesty International in Paris, seeking to have a convention against torture. That convention didn't become a reality until 1984, when it was open for signature, and it became a matter of international law in 1977. But Amnesty International was one of the organizations that was promoting a convention against torture, and it was largely for its work on torture that the Nobel Committee decided to award it the Nobel Peace Prize in 1977. Meanwhile, back in Dublin, I don't know if that's clear to you, but there was a young Irish barrister law student who was preparing to go to Afghanistan. That's a red afro hairdo, by the way. It used to belong to me. The suit is genuine Afghan peasant suit. And when I arrived back from that trip, my mother, who was to collect me at the train station in the town I lived in, drove by me on the street, either because she didn't recognize me or because more likely she did recognize me and didn't want to pick me up in the street. But in 1977, I was a first-year law student in Dublin, and I was inspired by a deceased French writer, and in particular by his novel La Peste. I say to my friends and anyone who will listen to it that on my good days, on my really good days, I'm Dr. Roux from The Pest, but they're very rare days that I have them as good as Dr. Roux. So La Peste was the novel that had most influence on me. And my friend Félicie Panton, who makes all our beautiful Amnesty tapestries, we visited Birmingham, Alabama last November. And what was interesting was one of the tapestries we're doing honors the freedom riders, the brave young men and women who rode the Greyhound and Trailways buses from Washington to New Orleans to break the segregation laws by using the segregated black students using the white toilets and the white students using the black toilets in the bus stations in Mississippi and in Alabama. What was interesting was that those young students were more students of Camus than they were of Gandhi. It was their inspiration to become involved in the civil rights movement and to take action was more Camus than Gandhi, which was something that was something of a surprise for me. But there were two essays in particular that had huge influence on me and my decision to join Amnesty. The one on the right is, in French, it's Ni victime ni bourreau. It's neither victims nor executioners. And it was an essay that Camus wrote against the death penalty. I've been given the 5-minute warning, so I'm going to have to fly from here on in. I also, in that August, was working in the United States, and I attended a death penalty, a rally against the death penalty, at which Joan Baez and her sister Mimi Farina sang against the death penalty. So that was my decision. It was partly Camus, but partly I suppose following two beautiful American folk singers is a good reason to join any organization, but that was in 1977. Then I came back, having worked as a death penalty lawyer in California, and joined Amnesty International in Ireland, became the president of Amnesty International Ireland in 1984, and we organized an art sale called Artists for Amnesty. And in that art sale, we raised over £200,000, which was an enormous amount. Those of you who have a memory of what 1984 was like and what prices were. But over half of the proceeds came from a painting that was donated by Francis Bacon to Amnesty. Had we kept the painting, we would probably be millionaires instead of tens of thousands, getting 70,000 as it was for that painting. Then in the 1980s, in fact, at the launch of the when we bought an office with the proceeds of this art sale, these 4 young boys called Bono, Edge, Larry and Adam came along to the opening, and inspired by what Amnesty was doing, U2 joined Amnesty International, and in 1986 they led a concert tour across the United States called Conspiracy of Hope. They didn't take part 2 years later, but 2 years later we had a world tour called Human Rights Now with those artists. And there were 2 concerts. Paris was the only city to get 2 concerts. Much more like New York. We tend to say in Amnesty, Paris, Paris, like you say New York, New York. Paris is so good, we name it as many times as we want. And in 1998, the Paris concert was held, again, a major concert held in Bercy on behalf of Amnesty International. And these concerts and these events convinced me that Amnesty needed a dedicated global program for engaging artists. We tended to operate on a very fragmented basis where the French would work with the French artists, the Irish with the Irish, the Americans, etc. So I decided this was not the best way to organize it, and that led in 2002 to the founding of Art for Amnesty. The wish that you see there is, of course, a paintbrush wish, but if you looked at the Amnesty logo, it is also the flame of the Amnesty candle. So we like to say that we're the hottest part of Amnesty International. A number of projects that we ran. Yoko Ono gave us the rights to the post-Beatles John Lennon song. We've so far made over 5 million on the royalties from that project. That's Yoko with then Secretary General Irene Khan getting one of our many platinum records. And then in 2011, Bob Dylan gave us the rights to his songs to record cover versions, and we produced an album called Chimes of Freedom. We did a film honouring Oscar Wilde. We did a book with Seamus Heaney where we translated one of Horace's odes. The other project that Art for Amnesty has started is the Ambassador of Conscience Award, which is Amnesty's premier human rights award. Many of the awardees have been artists. One of the awardees was Nelson Mandela. U2 got it in Chile in 2006. Mary Robinson with the Portuguese writer José Saramago in front of Guernica in 2004. Peter Gabriel in 2007. Malala and Harry Belafonte in 2013. Joan Baez and Ai Weiwei in 2015. Angelique Kidjo in Senegal in 2016 with Youssou N'Dour. I had a secretary once who couldn't understand my dictation of Youssou N'Dour's name, very fine Senegalese singer. She used to write it as used to endure. So he became Mr. Used to Endure. And then last year in Montreal, any prizes for guessing who this young singer is? Alicia Keys. 1 minute. Then I'm going to have to speak very, very quickly now. I'm getting the signals here. When Václav Havel died, I had an idea that we would join in the campaign to rename Prague Airport for him. It was more successful than I thought. It happened after 4 months, and I decided that we would give the airport a very large gift of a tapestry so that the government wouldn't change their mind. And I had the wisdom to travel to Aubusson, and since then Félicie Panton and I have done 12 giant memorial tapestries. This was for an Iranian human rights activist who was murdered in the apartment of his Paris apartment on the orders of the Ayatollah Khomeini. The one on the left is honouring the Irish poet Seamus Heaney. This is a pixelated Edge, Bono and Yoko on Ellis Island with Manhattan in the shape of a yellow submarine for John Lennon. This is one of the 3 tapestries we will dedicate in Memphis next month, honouring Martin Luther King, and you'll see where the inspiration for it came. And this is the backside of a 20 square metre Fernando Botero tapestry, which is the largest piece of art he has ever created, which is saying a lot when you're an artist that paints people as fat and big. But this tapestry now hangs in the airport in Bogota and is dedicated to the people of Colombia and their human rights. We had precisely 15 minutes from the off, from when it cleared customs to when the event was starting. So Félicie Panton was frantically sewing on the last and final pieces before we did it. This is a collage of those tapestries. This is the project I'm running this year in Paris, Le Rêve d'Eléonore, Eleanor's Dream. And some of the first concert we held in that series was at a little-known music hall in Paris called the Olympia with Damien Rice. You actually don't have to be an Irish artist to participate in these events, but it helps if you are. This is designed by Peter Siss, and we're making it into a 30 square metre azulejo, a glazed tile mural, which will be dedicated in Lisbon in July. This is a program supporting refugees where writers and illustrators have given their work. This is a project we're doing with Anna Juan, who has done 24 New Yorker covers, including this celebrated one after the attack on Charlie Hebdo. And this is a tapestry designed by Fernando Botero's wife, Sofia Vari. It's called I Love Greece, and it's dedicated to the Greek people and the solidarity they've shown in the refugee crisis. It will be dedicated in June. These pixelated women spent time in Russian prisons for carrying out a peaceful, if extravagant, protest in a Russian church. And they're sitting at something called, this is Nadia and Masha from Pussy Riot, and when they were first released from prison, the first place they came sensibly was to Dublin, and they wanted to visit, this is Havel's Place. And Havel's Place is a short, small bench, park bench, and it has the words, truth and love shall prevail over lies and hatred. To its shame, Paris doesn't have one yet. I think there should be one placed in the Jardin of the Sciences Po. And if the president of Sciences Po will pay half, I will come up with the other half, and we will remedy the deficiency in Sciences Po. There are 25 of these now. The last was dedicated in Ljubljana some 2 weeks ago. The only quibble I have with Havel and his quotation, truth and love shall prevail over lies and hatred, is he never said when. Then I would just like to say thanks, not for nothing, but for inviting me.